Welcome to GearCheckGames. This is part 1 of our commentary for Castlevania. I'm Christopher B., and I'm leaving now, because that's all they paid me to say. Bzzz. Well, thanks for joining us, Chris. I'm Joe. As usual, I'm joined by my two good pals, Trey and Dan, as well as our guest, Nick, for our playthrough of Castlevania for the NES.
Get desperately spooky.
One of my favorite NES games, honestly.
It's
I
good.
don't know about you guys.
This doesn't look like an NES, though, Joe. Care to explain?
Unfortunately, I am not yet equipped to record NES games in decent quality, so we're gonna have to settle for the awesome Castlevania Anniversary Collection that we released on, I think, all platforms about a year ago? No, not a year ago. Earlier this year, I think. But yeah, this collection has Castlevania 1, 2, 3, 4, the two Game Boy games, the Genesis game Bloodlines, and the Japan-only Kid Dracula.
Nice.
Localized for the first time in this collection, as well as all of the Japanese versions, except Simon's Quest.
And the
Nobody
Japan-only
likes Simon's Quest.
book JP version.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like a movie. I get it.
Yeah.
Are we doing a Castlevania speedrun?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, this is a very short game, but honestly, I'd be interested to see what a speedrun of this game looks like, because, like...
I think there's a lot of, like, wall hacks.
Yes, it's a side-scrolling action game, but, like... As far as I know, there's not really a way to go any faster. You kind of just have this, this saunter, or whatever.
I know the Castlevania 3 speedrun is primarily wall hacks. But one, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I wouldn't know where to look for glitches, but it seems like a pretty airtight game to me. Anyway, so basic gameplay, you can walk, you can duck, you can jump, you can attack with your whip, and if you have a special weapon, you can use that by pushing up in the attack button.
You can also...
And you can get hit by a dog if you suck.
Are you just gonna ignore the wall chicken over to the right, Joe?
This is a wall chicken?
I believe so. I think there's a wall chicken over to the right underneath these stairs.
Oh.
I know there's a wall chicken
Wait, no, I'm wrong.
in the next room.
Yeah, it's the next room.
Jeez, you wasted that dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the holy water. The only weapon you will ever need in this game.
Also, I would like to point out that Joe earlier saying that this is a short game was a little bit of a humble flex, because this is a very difficult game.
Okay. Yes, okay, in terms of, like, content, like, if you can beat Castlevania, chances are you can beat it pretty quickly, but, like, this game took me... Put it this way, the first time I played this game was my freshman year of college in 2013. Around Halloween time, in fact.
Nice.
I did not beat this game until earlier this year. There are only 6 levels in this game, and this playthrough is, like, 35 minutes long.
Yeah, it's...
There's a 35 minutes that took me...
many years.
Crap, how many years is
6.
that? 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years to beat. Yeah, maybe I need to go back to school and learn how to
wow.
math again.
These initial levels are modeled very much like... Well, I guess technically I'm thinking backwards, but Symphony of the Night has a similar structure in the first, like, few, like, rooms you go to.
Yeah, I haven't played many Castlevania games. The ones I've beaten are 1, 3, 4, and Symphony of the Night. But all 3 of those games have in some form a reference to, like, this opening stage and just the level design of Castlevania 1 in general. I don't know if that's, like, a trend throughout the series.
It's like all 3 of the games that you mentioned take place in Dracula's castle, right?
Well, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, don't all Castlevania games take place in Dracula's castle, more or
Well,
less?
the majority
yes.
of them.
Dracula's castle is called Castlevania.
That's true, yeah, but I think Castlevania 2...
Because it's like Transylvania, but a castle.
Castlevania 2 doesn't take place largely... I don't know that you go to Castlevania at all in Castlevania 2.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, no, don't you go to the... As far as I know, I think you go to the ruins of Castlevania at the end,
Right.
like once you've collected all of Dracula's body parts.
Gross.
Gross.
So here we have our first boss. I mentioned that the holy water is the, like, far and away the most useful weapon in the whole game, but, like, for this boss, the axe will do.
Is this the Mad Batter?
I guess.
No, it's Marks from Kirby. But
I think technically the name of this enemy is Gargoyle, but I'm not sure.
behold the orb of power.
My uncle actually worked at Nintendo when this game was made, and he told me the enemy's name was Big Bat.
Okay, cool. So
Not Bad Bat?
Big
it's,
Bat.
Batman.
Dr. Bad Bat.
Oh.
Now, I chose to play the Japanese version of Castlevania Akumajo Dracula, and there aren't too many differences between the two as far as I know, but one of the main differences is that at the end of every stage, all of the hearts you have in your inventory get added to your score. And one of the only difference I know between the Japanese and English versions is that in the Japanese version, they tick down way faster. Like the US equivalent is rather ear-grating in how long it goes on. So thankfully, this version does not have that problem.
I always thought it was a clever use of real estate that they put the boss health bar underneath the player health bar.
Oh yeah,
Because they didn't have a lot of
And
HUD
kept
space.
it there for the whole stage.
Well, yeah, but like,
build some anticipation, I
Yeah.
guess.
yeah.
So it's all about the little details with these NES games. You gotta. It's kind of harder to appreciate them in hindsight, but like as far as like NES games that I've played, I'd say that graphically this is like far and away one of the best ones.
Yeah,
Pretty much all the NES Castlevanias look great.
well, it's not quite dithering, but like the use of two-tone like alternations on the pillars and whatnot is very fancy and a lot more than you would get in most NES games.
Yeah, just this level of detail was kind of uncommon. Now that item I picked up right there, that is, I believe that's called a double shot, the Roman numeral thing.
That's good.
That is a very good thing to get because it means you can, it means you can throw more than one weapon at a time.
My
that's
my
awesome.
first playthrough of this game, I had no idea what that was, and I had to look up the manual online.
Yeah, me either. I didn't learn about that until this year.
Isn't there a 3 and a 4 as well?
There's a 3, not a 4 though.
Okay.
I would say the double one will do you just fine though, because usually by the time I usually combine the double shot with the holy water.
Yeah.
As, most people do because the holy water is just the best.
Oh yeah.
By the time
Oh, thank God.
the enemy is like out of its stun period, you're ready to like throw another holy water already.
Yeah.
So like, you really don't need more than 2 with the holy water to use it effectively.
What the holy water lacks in range, it makes up for in just simple DPS. Like it puts out a crap load of damage.
Yeah, basically what the holy water does is it freezes the enemy in place and continually damages them. Like the enemy doesn't get like any invincibility frames until the holy water is no longer in effect on the screen.
Ooh, this is
So you can basically just like combo a boss to death in like one cycle with it.
this little segment of the game, and I believe there's a similar segment in Castlevania 3, is the most like patience grinding, anxiety inducing part of the first half of this game.
I was gonna say, I feel like this is the first point where most people start like dying.
Yeah,
Just
it's
because
like
of
it's
ceiling crushers.
Like, it's not really that hard when you actually play it, but just the fact that they don't go up very high just makes it feel very tense and stressful.
For an NES game, there's like a lot of things to just interact with in this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
I've always wished that the time freeze, the stopwatch, I guess, was like useful because it's a very cool concept, but it's like compared to the other special moves, it's like useless.
I'm gonna beg to differ with you, Nick. I actually think the stopwatch is the second best item after the holy water. Namely because of the crows in stage 3, it lets you freeze them.
Yeah.
Those crows are assholes.
Now, if only you could get it for the owls in Castlevania 3.
Being able to freeze them in place to attack them is very nice. This is our second boss, the Medusa head.
Wow.
Most of Castlevania's enemies are derived from like old horror movies from Universal and Hammer. They got Medusa in there too. Maybe they were fans of like Ray Harryhausen's movies. I don't know.
That was a boss?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that I guess speaks to my main issue with Castlevania. I mean, this is a classic game, no doubt, and I do really love it, but I feel like the holy water it's so effective, and the rest of the game is so difficult that, like, having the holy water almost kind of makes the challenge, like, not worth attempting. Like, there are certain bosses later in the game where, like, if you don't have the holy water going into the boss, like, your chance of actually beating it is just, like, exponentially lower. So it's almost more worthwhile to just, like, get a game over, go back, and carry the holy water with you all the way to the boss. Yeah. Because otherwise you're just going to be beating your head against a wall trying to beat it with whatever, like, meager weapons the game gives you, like, outside of the arena. These are the crows I was talking about.
Like crowd favorite weapons, like knife.
How am I supposed to beat this monster with something stupid like an axe or a dagger? Where's my jar of water?
I tell you, every classic side-scroller with, like, sub-weapons has to have one that's, like, only purpose in the game is to, like, overwrite the better weapon that you already have because you accidentally walk into it. That's the knife in this game.
Yes, in this one.
I hate the knife.
Castlevania 3, there is exactly one place where you, like, have to have the knife if you want to beat a boss, but other than that, it's also the worst thing.
Well, even with the sub-weapon, Castlevania 3 is just ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
Man, Symphony of the Night makes use of the knife. Like, there are situations which the knife is good.
I think Portrait of Ruin actually did some cool stuff with the knives, too. Like, because you could, like, power up your sub-weapons and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is to be commended. I don't like that this game is just, like, there's all these different weapons you can use, but, like, basically only 1.5 of them is good.
So,
because, like, while I do like
or one of them's just, like, a worse version of another.
Yeah. Well, like, what I was gonna say, while I do really appreciate the stopwatch for situations like this with the crows, because, spoiler alert, we're gonna see what happens when I don't have the stopwatch. But I would much prefer a game where it's just like, what weapon do you want to use? What weapon is best suited for this situation? Instead of like, oh, always get the holy water because all the other weapons just don't compare.
So
like it'd be better to have like an inventory. You could like have a Rolodex of items. You could slip through.
Well, not even that, but just like making them good.
So anyone who's ever played one of the first, well, Castlevania 1 or 3 would have just like cringed really hard watching Joe jump over those pits, because this is one of the things that I wanted to mention about this series, or the first 2 games, not counting Simon's Quest, is that the platforming is like set.
Like when you jump into the air, you cannot control yourself. Like you are basically stuck with the momentum and trajectory.
Not only do you always go forward by 2 tiles, but also every time an enemy hits you, you always get knocked back by 2 tiles.
Yeah,
which makes
kamikaze birds.
Yeah, which makes that bit where he was jumping that you're gonna see again because he died. But this bit coming up where he's jumping into like the mummies. Very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, sorry to repeat this section, but I just wanted to show how BS these crows are. They're basically... Oh my god, I hate them so much, because, like, they fly towards you, and then at the last second, they sometimes change their trajectory to hit you.
Like...
I'm sorry, when you were walking up, it looked like the tower in the background was giving you the middle finger, as you were talking about how awful the crows were.
Yeah. So if Joe hadn't hit that little mummy guy, hadn't hit the attack button right then, he would have just died because he would have been knocked back into the hole by them.
Oh my god, wall chicken.
Now, it just occurred to me a couple days before we recorded this, but I wonder if the 2 mummies here weren't a reference to the fact that in the Universal horror series, there were actually 2 mummy characters. Like, there was the original mummy, Imhotep, and then there was, like, another mummy that was... Like Imhotep was just, like, an Egyptian guy. Like, he didn't have the bandages or anything. But then they introduced a mummy later that was more like this, so I wonder if they weren't referencing that by having 2 mummies.
And the later one was like the Brendan Fraser. Well,
okay,
not that
sure.
movie, but that character.
Brendan Fraser is Simon Belmont. This summer.
Could you imagine?
Oof.
So is this bit Joe dies until the game overs and comes back with the holy water?
No. The holy water isn't actually super useful here because you have to focus on 2 enemies. I mean, I guess you could get them like stuck together, but
Cyclopsis all over again.
I mean, it lets you attack them from the safety of the ledge.
yeah. Yeah, the safest way to fight these guys is to just wait until they go beyond the stairs and just like crouch and whip their heads. And hope to God that the bandages don't like fly into a trajectory that hits you.
Oh, so Cheese the boss.
Yeah,
That's
what it is. Like
Oh, no.
Yeah, honestly, I would say the bosses are the biggest downfall of this game because it's often just like you could spend hours trying to like beat them legitimately, or you could just use the overpowered weapon.
That was my
do it in one
my
cycle.
favorite mid-'80s sitcom, by the way. Cheese the Boss.
Yeah, mine too.
Anyhow.
Joe, you hate
Get ready to
cheese.
cheese some more bosses in the finale. See you then.
Bye.